Las Vegas, of course, has long been known for its spectacular lights, but much of the light that we generate is actually wasted, and even worse, it's a form of environmental contamination. That's according to the author of a new book about light pollution.
The lack of darkness affects our physical and mental well-being, scientists say, but it's still possible. Is it still possible to turn down the intensity? Well, we have the I-Team's chief investigator, George Knapp, on it, and he's reporting on what's called the end of darkness.
Ever since there were humans, we've had the experience of walking out at night and being face to face with the universe. That's inspired art, it's inspired religion, it's inspired philosophy, you name it. And now by and large, we've lost that experience. Most Americans have never even seen the Milky Way, for example. That kind of cost is difficult to really gauge.
Writer Paul Bogard is not anti-light, but he is certainly pro-darkness. His book, The End of Night, is sort of a love letter to the wonders of the night sky and the importance of darkness.
Darkness is really important for us in many ways. It's important to our body, our physical health, our mental and psychological, even spiritual health. It's important for the environment in which we live.
From the extraterrestrial vantage point of a satellite, the relentless march of illumination over the past century is clear. Most of us live in an ocean of man-made light. There are dark places left, but the light is quickly overwhelming them. And by 2025, the U.S. will have no truly dark places left.
We humans evolved like all life on Earth in bright days and dark nights, and we need both for optimal health. And so our bodies have never had a chance to evolve to adjust to all this bright light at night.
It's hardly a surprise that Bogard's book starts with a visit to the brightest place on the planet, Las Vegas, home to the single brightest man-made light on Earth, the Luxor beam, a concentrated stream of light from an array of enormous bulbs. Like millions of other tourists, Bogard is dazzled by the astounding neon creations that beckon visitors to Las Vegas. But an astronomer walking on the Strip might be able to see only a dozen stars instead of the 2,500 to 3,000 the human eye can see away from the city lights. The problem isn't light, Bogard says, it's wasted light. Gas stations as bright as mini supernovas blasting out light in every direction, or massive stadium lights that often stay on all night. Car lots that need the output of a small nuke plant to keep their jalopies illuminated all night. Ditto for empty parking lots. There is darkness on the edge of town, Red Rock, for instance, and you can tell the point where you escape the light. But even the darkest places are overwhelmed by the inescapable glow of Las Vegas.
If you imagine the lights in your house, we almost never are going to just have a bare bulb in a socket or in a fixture. We're going to always have a shade on that light. And the concept is the same with lights outside.
Unlike some environmental challenges, light pollution is something we can fix, Bogard says. In Summerlin and other parts of the Northwest Valley, for instance, streetlights are lower and more shielded. Light is focused down where it's needed, not up where it's wasted. You can see the dramatic difference between the shielded lights of Summerlin Parkway and the unshielded lights of US 95. Entire neighborhoods have no streetlights at all, just small lights for home addresses. Residents love it. Bogard says too much light is bad for human health, so much so that working the night shift is now considered its own health threat and an increased cancer risk. Excessive light is a cause of widespread sleep disorders. It's a more direct threat to hundreds of other species, including birds and turtles. The bats, which feed on moths drawn to the Luxor light, for instance, gorge themselves, but fly so far out of their way it ends up a net loss. The same state that's home to the brightest spot also has some of the darkest. The Great Basin National Park was created in part because of its scenic vistas, especially at night.
We do have some of the darkest skies in the country, and you can see the Milky Way galaxy like you would never believe it. It's just amazing, and sometimes it looks like clouds. The stars are clustered so thick together.
But the sky over us was the same sky you would have seen 200 or 300 years ago when, say, Lewis and Clark were crossing the continent.
Even though it's 400 miles from Las Vegas, wasted light is already impinging on the Great Basin's night views. Bogard thinks we need to save the darkness before it's all gone.
Light itself is not bad. Light is miraculous, wonderful, oftentimes very beautiful. It's just that We're using so much of it, and unnecessary amounts, really.